to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Any agenda adjustments? No. All right, public comment. Anybody?
Wait, do you have the agenda in paper?
Yep, right here. We don't have any presentations tonight. We're trying to keep this meeting a little bit light because it's basically at the beginning of the school year. There you go. Yep. Secretary's report. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the regular meeting on August 5th, 2025.
I'll second, but I did find a typo.
Okay, discussion. So what did you find?
Under grant review and approval, it says runs, not turns.
Okay.
But otherwise, perfect.
Okay. All those in favor? So moved. The next regular meeting of the South Bristol School Board will be October 7th, 2025. As we go forward with putting together Education Service Center materials and figuring out exactly what's required, if we do decide to go in that direction, there may be a need for other meetings. So if we do have those, we'll post them on the website. We'll probably send them out through the town email and just try and get the word out as much as possible. The next regular meeting the next meeting of the ALS board is scheduled for September 3rd, tomorrow at central office at 6 p.m. Finance report, Peter.
We so didn't we went on there. We forgot it. We forgot it when we did the agenda.
I was wondering why. All right, well, why don't we do Peter, Lori, and then Todd?
Sounds good.
Okay, so the first reporting on the close of FY25, and we finished the last payroll last week, so we were able to clear out all the encumbrances and things and see clearly what was happening with the end of the year. And it closed pretty much the way that we had projected beginning in April or so, that there'd be somewhere in the neighborhood of 100,000, maybe not quite available left at the end of the year. And that's bore out to be fairly true. There's a 60, I skip the number, 60-something thousand dollars available at this point for a fund balance forward. And that leaves money for the audit to get paid, and there's some transfers, some funds in the grant where the Burns is moving, and I've taken all that into consideration. Also, we paid for the van that we just bought, but have not really shown it as against the donation, so I've shown that in here at the bottom. And at the end of everything, there's $66,464.78 to roll forward at this point. There's actually, that number has a couple things that are pending. Today I did a good bit of work with Michelle Miller, the nutrition director, on the what's going on with why the expenses in the food nutrition area have gone up so much. And I did discover in some analysis that we have another $4,500 to post in revenue for that. So that helps a little bit. We added to this 66, so it gets up to more like 71,000 that we have. We're waiting also to get some money back from the E-rate project that was done. And until that money is here, it's about $15,000. Until that money is actually received, I can't really count it. But there could be that E-rate money as well, which would get you back closer to 85. So once we achieve those two revenues and post them, you're looking at about 85,000 as a fund balance forward, which again, it's about what, when we were all doing the work together in the spring to do the forecast, that's right in the neighborhood of where we said we thought it would land. There's a few things that Laurie and I want to adjust with line to line in here to show things more accurately for what we know happened versus for what each account line says. But we just closed the month Friday and here reporting it tonight. So Laurie and I will do that work this month to kind of really tighten it up. And so the only thing that's really worth kind of noting here, guys, there's plenty that could be kind of gleaned out of this, and we have from now till we budget again to kind of talk about all that. But the big jump for me that I really didn't trust the numbers at first and had to dive in and look at them line by line was how much the costs have jumped in the nutrition program. I really thought we might have some missing revenue. I took a look at what, did Bristol owe us any money for the arrangement that we had to use the kitchen, and no, there's nothing there. And did we count every grant piece of revenue? Did we, receive every state subsidy, et cetera? And did we spend any money that we shouldn't have spent out of that cost area? And no, it was all accurate. And so when I met with Michelle, she, we basically came down to, we didn't lose it, but a $7,000 grant that we had been receiving in prior years ended. So we had $7,000 less in revenue for that grant. We know we moved to new support staff contracts, so the cost of labor here higher than it has been in the past. And then the cost of food jumped up considerably. So remembering that there's 4,500 more to post here, you're still looking at 53,000 and some change to contribute to this program. And interestingly, I also reviewed all Jefferson's numbers today, and Jefferson is contributing 55,000 on a school 4 times the size. So it has nothing to do with the size of the school. It has everything to do with the amount you receive back in revenue versus how much it costs to operate the program. I mean, for example, Jefferson's receiving, 200,000 in revenue or 150,000 in revenue costing 200,000 to operate. And, you're a quarter of the size, but you still are contributing as much because it takes that much effort. What I asked, Michelle had a couple of ideas about efficiencies that could be gained in how to operate the program. And what I asked her to do is we're going to do all 4 schools. There's an admin meeting, I think it's next week, and for all the principals, and Michelle's going to generate a report for the whole team, because she's at that admin meeting, which will say, this is what I'm seeing happening in the 4 schools. This is what the principals could do to help gain some cost controls over some of this. But it really all comes down to really looking at how many operational hours it should take to run the program, and then really managing it to that. Because you can't really, we're not wasting food, and the cost of food is what it is. In fact, as Michelle reported, the new laws or regulations that are going into effect that are making sure that we only use 10% of non-US food product in the program are going to increase our food costs. So we're doing all we can to monitor this and to bring Michelle's and to bring collective, the whole school system's peer-to-peer support for how to manage it, but it's growing in every school. And so that was the big jump in this. And other than that, I think that this is fairly accurate for where we'll be as we pass all this information to the auditors.
So even though we increased our food budget by $10,000 for this year, it still might not be enough. I mean, I appreciate that you're going to look for ways to save and ways to do it differently so we can stick to that. But if it's already 22 or 3 over what we have budgeted, that could be
detrimental.
Yes,
I'm well aware. No, so that myself, I was like, oh, it's painful. It's such a jump.
Looking at the operation and looking if there's any way to keep the hours to the limit is really the only place we have to focus. And it's not going to be by that much.
Yeah.
Right, because it's not like she would want to, or we should send her home for an hour in the middle of the day.
Right,
right. That's, yeah. Well, I think we acknowledge this, but I also do want to acknowledge in a public meeting how much we appreciated her work when she was sharing the kitchen with Bristol, and we kind of pulled the rug out from under her with her kitchen and her ability to just work as she normally does. So we really appreciated her flexibility with that. All right, well, yeah, keep us posted, and maybe next meeting we can hear a report out from what you guys talk about at admin and what you discover.
Yeah, the meeting's on the 9th.
So the one thing that this committee needs to do for official, has to be in the minutes, is to vote to move the $50,000 to the SPED reserve. Remember, we had 100 in there. We rolled 50 into revenue for next year for the fund balance forward, but we kept 50 in the SPED reserve. When we budget to put it there, and we ask permission to put it there, we say from unexpended balances at the end of the year. So at the end of the year, you have to actually take the action that the taxpayers approved quite a while ago, 15 months ago or 18 months ago, and now actually move it. So you just need, somebody needs to make a motion to move $50,000 from unexpended FY25 funds to the special ed reserve, and that needs to go in the minutes.
I'll make a motion to move $50,000 of unexpended funds to the special ed reserve.
Second.
Any
I second
discussion?
that.
All those in favor? So moved.
Great.
And it looks like we got the numbers for Burns Fund to the town, and now we just kind of need to make sure that all the numbers for that kind of match. So we can do that in the next.
Yeah, we'll do a set of budget revisions so that Lori and I talked about it. We'll take her budget, change this budget accordingly to a series of budget revisions.
Okay.
And then the next time we do a report, we'll have the updated information in.
And that's where I usually end up with an end of fiscal year transfer.
The end of fiscal year, so there's the end of the grant year,
I don't
and
know,
there's the end of the fiscal year.
specifically
Fiscal year
talking about Burns.
is reported out. Because the Burns Fund ends June 30th, like every other fiscal year, but then you got a few extra months to match against the grant. But Laura's budget revisions are for FY26, so we've just started that year. Right?
So what if our ending numbers don't match?
Then we just sit down and reconcile and see why, and then make any changes that are necessary to any journal entries or anything. Or just figure out, do we have something in one year, and then, at the beginning of the year, did we put something in FY24 that actually was in FY25? We'll just look for where the beginning and end dates are, and just reconcile them.
Yeah, it'd be great to have that. I know the timeframes for both are off, but it'd be nice to have kind of what we have for carry forward, because it's like a very interested in that number as our burn, so we just need to make sure that the numbers do match and we can go forward confidently with what we carried over or not.
Yep.
Okay.
So Lori and I just talked about the fact that we haven't had a time since the month ended till reporting out tonight for us to really dive into this at the level we need to. So we agreed to set up a time in the next 10 days to do that. And that's a big piece of it, is to do just what I just asked. Okay.
It would be nice to get, I guess, a report, if you meet and kind of figure out exactly where we are, that could be just reported over email to the board. That would be great.
Not wait for the next board meeting.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. Okay.
And then Sandy and I should have a similar meeting as soon as Lori and I meet, and just do the reconciling of the Burns Fund again prior to the next meeting and get that done.
That'd be good.
Okay, so for FY26, we haven't had any payrolls yet. They just start this week. So you don't see anything encumbered for the teachers and the ed techs, et cetera. And so that'll be the next big thing that we go in and investigate. We did the first payroll process today. We took the unprecedented step of actually having principals. This was Bristol and South Bristol's week. We had the principals in each school review the payroll before we processed it, to make sure we didn't miss anybody or that anybody was in there in a way they shouldn't be. So we took that extra step to make sure that we get it right in this first one of the year. And it looked good. It all got processed with everybody's input on it. And everything else is just lining up here. There's not a lot in here to look at, other than, Laura and I have already started getting into the weeds of whether something is considered a shared software if it's only shared with one school, or is that just, how we budgeted versus what the practice is at the end. So we're paying attention to those details as we go into what is Laura's first budget that she owns from its, origins. And again, that's the work that she and I will do when we meet, is go through here and make sure that we're paying attention to those details so that it tracks well through the year. But this year's reporting should be much better than last year's, because last year we were jumping into a whole new team in the central office with a whole new system, and everybody was trying to learn the account lines and get them in the right place, and it was, a little bit of triage to make sure that we just got the bills paid right, and the reporting came second. But now we're really kind of focused on the reporting and getting it clean, and things like changing the names of account lines and things that are just sort of more for user friendliness. We now have the time and want to do that. So we can look at that. Every time we look at this, we can look at, is there a better way to be looking at it? One of the things that, and as John is aware, that we're moving to with AppFund this year is to begin to look at how the principals can have more involvement in using it and getting the information they need. And by doing so, that should inform the structure and content of these reports. And I'd like to see some big jumps in how recognizable and user-friendly the data is, in addition to being, accurate. So that's where we're at. And so we're still at the very beginning of the year, so the finances aren't much to look at, but so far, so good. And next month we'll see pay more attention to the payroll lines, because there'll be some payrolls that have happened, and we can start looking at how close we did budgeting those.
It looks like there might be a few lines in here that like maybe need to be cleaned up in terms of like the word advertising is already 580 in the hole, and like there are just a couple of little things like the encumbered for fuel for Burns is 1,800 is already encumbered, which means we're over because the line in the budget doesn't say it has anything in it. I mean, there's just a couple of things that are maybe.
Well, we didn't budget on any fuel for the car, for the van, because at that point we weren't planning on having one. So
That's like extracurricular travel, isn't it? I mean, whether it's the bus or fuel.
Yeah, it's within the co-curricular travel or sports travel.
Yep.
So we put a line in for the fuel to know, I didn't do any of that, by the way. Peter put a line in to know what we were spending on fuel, but it will balance out with the transportation, with co-curricular transportation and sports transportation.
So we'll do a budget revision.
Yeah.
When we do the Burns,
Yeah.
we'll move some money from that co-curricular travel to the fuel line.
Yeah.
And,
Yep.
and other budget revisions, we'll do all the Burns fund. It's gonna be a good budget revision, but other budget revisions would, or at the direction of the principal. So Laurie will tell me what she wants to do, and I will revise those in the system. So that is ongoing, but it's initiated by the principal. And like the 580 in advertising over versus the amount we have budgeted, I mean, that happened. So some of that stuff is going to be reported the way, it is. It would be wise to always cover your overages by doing those budget revisions in real time and providing the money. It's not always absolutely necessary, but it's good to keep up with it so you don't go overspending in other areas. So we can do that. That's something that you and I can do each month, Laurie. Or you can also just have Katie, when she's about to prepare a purchase order, and she sees it's going over, she can say, take some out of this line and some out of that line. And we'll just do those as we go.
Is school board advertising what we use to publish, to attract teachers, like with, so that's,
Yeah.
I never understand why that's in there.
Yeah, I don't know
It's
either.
okay.
I
That makes
actually
sense now,
went to
because I'm
Peter
like,
and said,
school
I don't know
board-
where to take this
Yeah.
from. There's
No,
nowhere.
It makes sense because we did have so much of a need
Yeah.
to advertise for our positions that it would be, but it shouldn't be encumbered. Well, anyway, okay.
We haven't got the invoice yet.
Yeah. That's
That'll
what,
be unencumbered pretty soon. So, and you won't, that's a line you don't really draw from again this year,
Let's hope.
Any hope.
stop it, all of you.
If everything goes well, that's kind of,
Yeah.
you spent that money at that period, then that's done for you.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, no, that's helpful. All right, does anyone else have any other questions about Peter's report?
I have one, I lost it, but it wasn't important.
Lori?
Yes. So, really good to be back at school. Good to have the teachers the staff for 3 days, but really now having the students it's bringing a smile to everyone's face. And the school looks great. And we have water, which I will say again, facilities report. Soccer season's off to a great start. We have 15 players. We have a fourth grade class of 2. And we went out on a limb and said, do you want to practice with the 5 through 8? They cannot play in games because it's a bus line league rule, 5th and up. But man, they're having a great time out there, and we need to do something a little bit special for a class of 2.
Both awesome.
What?
Both awesome.
They are awesome, yes. They all are. Mr. Jan joined our community meeting on the first day of school and just went over rules and expectations on the bus with the whole school community and with the teachers too, which I think is really helpful for field trips and things. And today, he also took the 7th and 8th graders and to the bus and trained them on how to open all of the emergency exits and when we would use the back exit versus a window or the front. And I think the 7th and 8th graders really took to the responsibility of that. And I taught, we don't really have to worry about this. We're preparing for it just to be safe, but they were good. So tomorrow, as long as the weather is great, we will have a bus evacuation drill with the whole school. Mr. Phillips started music classes. We are really enjoying the energy he brings to the classes. And he is adding a beginning band for 4th and 5th grade this year, which we are hopeful will help to spark our band and chorus for the next few years. We had kids sign up today, and we had 9 in both band and chorus. So of course, immediately I'm so excited to have that many, but thinking, don't go to 10. But if 10 want to join, we will figure it out. After school care and after study started today and went beautifully. It's a well-oiled machine, thankfully. And Kurt comes on Friday, Kurt from Maine Maritime Museum boat building program, to talk to the kids about expectations and how much fun they're going to have this year. And then they'll start with their boat building on Friday, on the following Friday, I think it's the 12th. Open house is September 16th at 5:30, and the boosters are going to host it with ice cream and hot dogs. That should be good. And they'll be here set up with the tent to try and pull in new parents. We are fully staffed and everyone is just beaming. We are happy to have all of the new staff and happy for our returners to be here too. And there's an energy that we're just really enjoying right now. The 12th and 13th of August, we had 5 teachers and 1 administrator attend the Math for Me conference that was hosted by Maine VOE. It is our 2nd year of a 3-year program where we just get this wonderful free training. They come to our school and observe us teaching and walk around the school and try and help us to pull math in just everyday life so that kids are able to connect math to what they do each and every day. And on August 25th through the 27th, we had professional development. We started at Jefferson with a welcoming by Todd, and then an introduction of new staff. We did some mandatory annual trainings, and then had grade level content area meetings, which our teachers, after we talked about it later, the teachers were so grateful to have that, especially this year. With last year not having a curriculum coordinator, we need to get those people on the same page, and we enjoy working together and leaning on each other. And on the 26th, we had our full staff here. We went over all the logistics for the year and then had a Math for Me training. And the Math for Me team shared their goals with the staff, focusing on building a positive math culture, clear math goals each day, making connections and math discourse between students. And we're making that obviously level appropriate, but so that even the youngest students know how to ask each other clarifying questions when it comes to math. And we had MTSS PLC meetings in pre-K to 4 grouping and 5 to 8 grouping. And on Wednesday, we went to Camden all together in our van, all the teachers, and had a presentation by Wes Kishnick, which was fantastic. Gave us a fantastic way to think about how we're using technology in education and how we don't really need to get rid of what we used to do. We need a balance of both because both are really, really important. Since then, our staff has talked about maybe it was a little before then, we talked about a no technology Monday, thinking that some kids maybe spend a lot of time on technology over the weekend, and it might be a good day to give them off. So
Detox a little.
yes, yeah. So we're gonna start with a minimal math Monday and then move into math? No, lots of math. Minimal tech Mondays, and then really what our goal would be to get rid of technology altogether on Mondays.
And Nobleboro
has done that, yes, yep,
What ties in with the Access Generation?
it does, yes, yeah.
I like the idea of doing one day a week instead of like a whole week where
Yes.
you're kind of scrambling to
Right.
figure out what your methods
Yeah.
are.
And
You have one day that you're
staff
just
is pretty
cleansing.
dependent on
Yeah.
technology. I feel like they were a little more anxious than the kids were not having technology for that week that we did that. But it's good. It's great for all of us to figure it out and kind of get back to our roots.
Well, Lincoln just announced today that they have a new cell phone policy, so that's gonna be a
Wow.
huge thing. They're-
Wow,
Before the bell at lunch and then after the bell, that all the teachers have
love it.
receptacles to put their phones in.
It's so great.
You know, accommodations obviously are still in place, but not.
Yep, that's fantastic. I feel like the schools that have gone that route have had some really positive feedback to share. I know Todd brought someone in from RSU 1 last year, at the beginning, yes, who told us about just the change in attitudes and attendance and kids who were engaged, just not having that piece of equipment on them at all times.
And the teachers can say, all right, we're gonna use our phones for this educational
Right.
purpose, and they can still do that, but,
Yep.
it's interesting.
You do have an activities fund update. Not a lot of changes because we just got back, but yes.
Are we gonna be able to sell boat tickets in Booth Bay at the Oyster Festival?
Yeah, yes. I'm trying to go back in my head with the emails, but yes, that is in the works for next weekend.
I forget his name, well, Warren had forwarded my information along, I guess the Oyster Festival being held in Booth Bay, it used to be held at Schooner, right?
It was, yeah,
Um,
yep.
So they invited us to sell our boat tickets down there this year, which will be great, because a lot of
Yes.
problems we have is that we sell our boat tickets to the same people all the
Over and
time, whether
over.
we're at Coastside or in town or whatever.
Yeah.
So being able to go to Booth Bay and have that opportunity is
Yeah.
huge.
It is, and the fact that they asked us to be there, I
Yeah.
think is important too.
That's great.
I didn't even mention, the 8th graders had a car wash at the fire station this weekend. And I wasn't there because I was moving my own kid into school, but they just had a fantastic time from what I've heard, and I can't wait to see the pictures, but just a good team bonding. We have 2 new 8th graders this year, so that's always it's just 2 new people in a class of 8 it can change things, and it's really, really been quite positive for our students. Yeah. And facilities, would you like that now? I don't even know if we put it on there. Do we put it on there? Facilities? Go for it. Yep, okay. Shane's been testing the well for chlorine levels and has continued to test even with our drink order lifted. All the tests came back beautifully, and Mary Bowers asked for an expedited testing, and on the first day of school at 11:55, I jumped in the cafeteria. I was on duty, and Shane showed me an email because I didn't have my phone on me, and I literally jumped and was so excited.
Squealed in the town office.
4 years? Are you kidding me? We can drink the water. And I was like, let's take down all the signs now. And Shane said, I already did. I was like, oh, thank you. So yeah, really exciting. Now it's just going to be training the kids to use the fountains again, because it's been a while.
Yeah.
We're going to move that water into the teacher's room again. I like having one down in the gym, though. I think that's important. And we'll keep the water in Salties for those kids. Shane has asked for a quote to update the lights in Salties and in the office, because those are the only 2 sets of lights that are not the new ones. Maybe it's something we do, maybe we hold off on it. It's not necessary right now, but having the information is good. And grounds are looking good. The old well has been removed and filled in. He ordered the rest of the fence to put the fence back together over there, and they sent the wrong supplies, so that has been sent back, and we will get that done. But Adam Rice has offered to come over with a post digger, I believe, and help him out when that time comes. So it's nice to have that support from the select team for sure. And specialty services came to change the filters on our energy recovery ventilation system. And we're looking into air temperature zones for the kitchen to make air being vented into the building at a set temperature and not just the outside temperature. And Shane has also placed a call to Colby and Gale to ask what replacing our heater in Salties would entail, so we can compare that with heat pumps, because those seem to be extremely expensive. So,
Is it a monitor heater out there?
yeah. And did I mention that the drink order has been lifted? Okay. Great. That's it.
All right, Tom.
Yep, quickly. On August 12th, I participated in the SEA Federal Funds webinar. Christian had asked, I did a pretty in-depth presentation to the other boards about just how the title funds are determined and what funds were being directly impacted. And I had some amounts, but as Sarah and I talked, I'm going to hold off on getting the detailed amount of this until Christian's here, because he was the one who had asked about it. So we'll just table that for now. The good news is that those funds have all been released. So the federal funds are coming forward. And South Bristol stayed just about flat with where we were for funds last year. On the 14th, I participated in Child Find and Fate webinar. And what that is, that's referring to the legal obligation in Maine to locate, identify, and evaluate children between the ages of 3 and 22 who may need special education services. This is including those with disabilities. Child Development Services has been doing this for the younger students all along. That's going to be shifted off to public schools over the next several years. So there are some that have already jumped into cohorts to do that. We're not at that point right now. The 18 met on the 18th, and a big chunk of that time was for the workshop planning. You said everything I was going to say about
Sorry.
the workshop. No.
You usually
right.
go before me.
You
How did
said
this
everything-
happen?
You said everything that I was
Like,
going to say
skip right past you?
about the workshop days, so I appreciate the 18-foot map that I put in. And I do think it was pretty well received from everything I've heard from not just here, but from the other schools. And the presentation, I know people were a little concerned about a Wednesday presentation before kids came back, but the feedback that I got, I had seen Wes speak 2 years ago at the Maine School Superintendent's Association meeting, so I knew he was a pretty dynamic speaker, and I would say that people were, despite riding over vans and buses, they were probably, I think most of them were satisfied and happy with what they saw from him. And obviously students came back last Thursday. I was able to get around to most schools. I didn't make it down to South Bristol. I just ran out of time. I apologize. But it was good to see, as you said, to see kids back in interacting with our staff. On September 8th, next Monday, over at Bristol Consolidated School, there will be a presentation from Homeland Security. It's based on the iGuardian resources. It is on cyberbullying and youth victimization. So it's open to students and families. Bristol and South Bristol will be doing it together over at Bristol at 5 o'clock. So I will ask Lori to put out some information out, send out a reminder at the end of this week for administrators. We're doing it at all our schools. So Noblesboro will be going and doing it at Great South Bay. Jefferson will host Jefferson, And one of the neighboring towns is out of our district. And then Bristol and South Bristol will be over in Bristol next week, so.
Is the name of that one more time?
Yep,
Project
it's the cyberbullying and youth victimization. And it's really kind of along the lines of your technology. It's just informing students, but also parents, what to look for, what are some of the red flags you should look for when your children are surfing the web or on internet sites. And they do have some scary stories that they share. So it's out there, and there are people that are, unfortunately, that have become very skilled in doing things they shouldn't be doing that target young children. So it's important for parents to be able to know how to spot those things. So if people can attend, that'd be great. That's it.
Great, thank you very much. All right, grant review and approval. We're excited to receive an award of
$140,550 from the Burns Fund.
Burns Fund.
Burns Fund. And I think that's what you asked for.
It is exactly what I asked for.
And we've sent out a thank you letter to them,
Great.
appreciating the generous.
145.50.
$140,550.
And one of the things that they help fund, which they've helped the after-school program in the past, which is why we even decided to ask for it. But one of the things that they funded will end up being a fence for a little portion of the land behind Salties, which would be great because it'll allow the pre-KK to take advantage of the right kind of by a forest, you know, and they'll be able to safely go out and also just get ready for, get in their snowsuits. They'll be able to go out instead of waiting and sweating inside. And I think it's really exciting because it's a really unique kind of part of our campus. And
Absolutely.
I'm excited for them to be out there and to take advantage of that. So yes, many thanks to the Burns Fund.
Yes. So
We need to just make a motion to accept that. Make a motion to accept the $140,550 from the Burns Fund.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor? Great. Communications and recommendations, is that new?
No, that's when we had to do any other resignations, new hires,
Okay.
things of that nature.
Okay.
So that's nothing there.
Take it right
It's a good thing.
Okay.
We'll leave it as
None of
place.
that.
We'll leave it as place.
Old business?
That's what this was.
That's what
That was the whole title funds update. So I'll just table this and I will give you the board members a hard copy of this so you can actually have it looked at.
I'm really excited about this new business. Todd had told Lori and I when we were doing our agenda setting that Jeff Burrows, the headmaster of Lincoln, was going to come around to all the schools, school board meetings this month, which is exciting because he has been in the past, but it's been a little bit of time. So I'm really excited to have him come. I didn't know that was happening until last week when we had our agenda setting, so I kind of asked if we could have him come in October because I wanted to be able to prepare. I also wanted to be able to announce it to our community so people that wanted to come could come, and knowing this was just after a 3-day weekend and start of school, I knew it was going to be a little bit hard to get him here. It'd be hard to get other people here. And one of the things that he asked for was if we had any topics that we wanted to talk about. I think he'd like to be able to prepare, any stats or any like a little presentation if we have things that we specifically want him to talk about. So I don't know if there are any ideas that you have off the top of your head now.
I mean, the immediate thing that comes to mind is I know there are just so many things that are there that weren't when I was a student there. And there were so many impressive things when I was there that were technologies or crafts or extracurriculars. So I guess I'd just love to see the list of like, these are the extracurriculars we offer, because I know it's just got to be such an impressive list and much longer than even 10 years ago. So I'd love to see that. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
Well, I would ask him if there was something that he perceived consistently with the incoming classes that disappointed him.
Classes from our school or classes in general?
Or freshmen.
Classes in general,
In general,
freshman
okay.
class in general,
Mhm.
yeah. Not to ask a question that leads into an answer, but just stop and leave it to him,
He was good. Lindsay and I went and had a meeting with him in the afternoon. I think he's really willing to, engage in conversation. Last year. And probably October's better for him because he coaches.
Yeah, he coaches in October too, though. But I checked, there's not a game that day unless the rain gods get in the way.
Can we ask if there are positives and what the positives and negatives are? Because there has to be something with classes coming in that maybe we can help to foster.
Sure.
Yeah.
And along the same lines, I know my teachers, my middle school teachers would really like, 10 years ago or so, we had a professional development day at Lincoln Academy. We got to work with their teachers. We got to ask them questions about where do our kids need to be better prepared? I remember, because I was teaching writing, it was, with their vocabulary and it was their grammar. And those were the two things that I was able to hone in on as a teacher. So if he has any interest in that, I know my staff would like to do that.
Yeah, I'm also curious about our dropout rate. I've asked about that in the past, and we haven't gotten any specifics about it. And some of it still is influenced by COVID, but I think we've had a higher dropout rate than I think any of us would want. And that's not all on Lincoln's plate either. I mean, they were with us for, a long time before they went to Lincoln, and there's all sorts of factors, but I'm just curious, the last 10 years, how it's looked for our South Bristol kids.
But he's only been there 3 years. This is his 3rd year.
No, he's been there 5 years.
Yeah.
You're serious? Time just.
Because he came, his first year was COVID, right, John? Yeah, so his first year was COVID. So he obviously, if it had been a regular trajectory, he would be in an even kind of better place in doing all the things that he wanted to do, but he wasn't really able to start a lot of those initiatives until we got past COVID.
Yeah.
Because there were so many other things to
I
attest
keep
to.
thinking I'm 42.
There you go.
And you might hear out there that they were closing enrollment, because that was something they're talking about doing, pausing enrollment, but that's not the case. They are accepting taking new enrollment. So if that anyone moved into South Bristol and you heard that rumor, it's not.
A rumor that they were pausing enrollment at Lincoln, I hadn't heard that one, and I would say that was not
No,
anything
last
that
we talked about it, that they're pretty full.
Yeah, they're full, I do.
Right.
No, family, that was
Yeah.
feedback the family got. So if you hear that,
That's
I
good to
reached
know
out
to
to Jeff and he
Yeah.
said,
Yeah.
let me address it. So if you hear that rumor,
Gotcha. Okay. I think along the list of extracurriculars, I think if you talked about the cable program, that's a really exciting new program that they're doing with kind of work-based learning. And I may ask him to just quickly talk about his new phone policy, because I think that might be interesting too.
Yeah, great idea.
But we also do have, the auditors are coming in October, is that right?
Yeah.
So we have Brewer coming to do a presentation, we'll have Jeff coming to do a presentation. We'll have a lot of Education Service Center work and potentially Title IX update, but that should be quick, so.
Should I pause on a teacher presentation
Yes.
for that one?
Yeah. I hate to
figured.
do that, but I think,
No,
I
it's
think
okay.
Brewers is the presentation.
Yes, absolutely.
That will take longer than a
Yeah.
typical teacher presentation.
Mhm.
And I hate saying that, because that's what reminds, it reminds us of why we're here, when we see the kids doing all the cool things that they do, so I hate.
November will be a good
I
time for
always
that.
push it down, and then we'll start not having them because we've got budget discussions, but November will be a good one. Okay, so we'll get those to Jeff. And policy,
And we approved
We did
those
it.
Title IX
Yeah,
policies
we did.
last month, and
okay, long-range planning. I'm gonna flip these two a little bit. So the South Bristol Restructuring Committee had a meeting not too long ago. Both boards had decided to submit phase 1 of the application to form an educational service center. And that was kind of a short bit of paperwork that we submitted, that we had to submit by August 31st. It was kind of a placeholder because we were looking into submitting phase 2. We haven't taken any action on voting on phase 2, despite what you may have read. The boards have not taken any votes to leave the AOS, neither one of them, although that's been widely reported. So we're kind of in a place where we are starting some of the work to complete phase 2. So we're looking at, there's a group that met to talk about the interlocal agreement to kind of flesh out some of the things that would need to go into that. Some of the work, when you're forming an interlocal agreement, is fairly boilerplate from one interlocal agreement to the other. Some is specific to this work that we're doing right now. So we don't have to reinvent the wheel. We don't have to build it from the ground up. We can use some of the work that's happened before us with education service centers, and also GSB can be helpful with that too, I think. We were lucky to have Kristen Collins, who is a parent at South Bristol and is also just a new parent at Lincoln Academy. She's going to do some pro bono legal work for both towns, which is extremely helpful. And then we've talked about entering into a contract with Connie Brown, who is, among other things, the superintendent on Islesboro. She has worked in both Augusta and Auburn. I met her over a Zoom. Kristen Collins had suggested her. We've been talking and emailing a little bit. And she gave us a quote for doing 2 types of work. One, the first part would be just for the benefit of South Bristol. So South Bristol would pay for it to do a budget about what would happen if we just ran our own school. We expect it to be a very high price and something that we wouldn't be able to do. But for 10 years now, and probably for before that, people have been like, why don't we just do our own thing? Like, we can do this, let's just do our own thing. So we're asking her to look at what would go into that, to see what the cost would be, to see if that actually would be a feasible option or not for our town.
I don't understand where her expertise would be greater than Peter's.
It's getting a separate set of numbers. So we felt it was important that, Peter was preparing a budget from central office with his numbers. We felt it was important to have a second set of numbers to compare. And that way in an ideal world, they match.
Yeah,
that's
what.
Right.
So that's
what we're
what it
hoping
is.
for.
But it's a checks and balance system
Moves forward.
that I think not only helps Peter out, but it also helps our towns out, and it helps us. In my mind, it helps us because we've said we've done our due diligence.
Mm-hmm.
We've come up with a set of numbers, and then we've also checked it against somebody who's fairly independent of central office. I mean, we may have to ask some questions about how things are done, but for the most part, she's going to work independently of central office with people on the restructuring committee. So theoretically, they could match and we'll be good.
Mhm.
Peter might have some points that she didn't, and she might have some points that Peter didn't, but it's just a checks and balance system for us that I felt was necessary if we were going to bring this in front of the town.
It makes sense, but all the big numbers are the big numbers. Yeah, I shouldn't even say that. All the important headings are the important headings. But I trust your judgment. If you think that this is a genuine contribution, let's do it.
And I think as a committee, we've it's not just me.
Yeah.
I feel like I would really love to keep the peace with 4 schools. I feel like the teachers work really well together, the staff works really well together, the principals work beautifully together. And I think that this is a little bit of an olive branch for those schools, because I've heard some grumbling, like, what are you guys gonna have Peter do work while he's supposed to be hired by us?
Yeah, listen,
So,
you see a bigger picture than I do. Yeah.
Just,
Good.
anyway, that's where I feel like I'm coming from with that.
And
Is I wanna
think
keep the peace.
Olive branches are a good thing.
So there's, if I'm allowed to.
Yes. And Jennifer, if you
There's,
want to step into, just raise your
There's
hand.
another facet to that as well, and that is, this is potentially, fraught with some political and other issues as we go forward. If we were to go to the towns and say, we expect that this could mitigate cost increase to education going forward, and then if we missed something, we have to go back to the town in September of the year that we're forming the ESC to ask for more money.
Right.
It's a political
Yeah.
nightmare. And that has happened in some of the schools where I worked before. And you say that the big things are the big things,
Yeah.
but they forgot over $800,000 worth of big things, and had to ask for that for the town in September of their first year. And that was not a good thing to have happen when you're telling the public that you're saving money.
Absolutely.
So that was one of the things that makes sense to me, is to get the more eyes on the budget before we put a rubber stamp on it, the better.
All right, I forgot.
Did you say the second part of it? Yeah, okay, I just didn't take notes on it, I was probably listening, okay.
Did you want to say something?
If you're, when you're done though.
Yeah, I've kind of lost track of where I am, but I think that, I think this will be a good thing. It's a fairly minimal cost to our town. It'll be about $1,500, maybe less. Bristol will, likely contribute to half of that one part.
Right.
We'll pay for the whole part of Place on our own, and then Bristol and South Bristol will share, the cost of the Education Service Center. And we put a cap on it, so if it goes over $1,000, she has to pause and come back and see if, but she's expecting it to be less than that, so. Yeah, so that's interlocal agreement, budget, legal. Bristol has moved up their meeting, so they're gonna meet on Thursday. We're not ready with we would like to hold some sort of public forum, which will likely be some sort of board workshop, so all of the school board can be in attendance without going over a quorum. So it will likely be a board workshop where public can come and ask questions. And we will have some information to distribute. We're working in drafts of things right now, so we don't have financials to give out. We don't have a draft of the interlocal agreement that we've looked at committee to give out. So we want to try and make this process as transparent as we can, but we're just not ready to give a lot of information out, because this is a process that's unfortunately having to happen within a short time frame. And we want to make sure that even though we have that short time frame, that we're also just really being diligent, like John was saying, about checking the numbers, checking the language, making sure we're all on the same page, particularly where we have two different boards. So I'm hoping that maybe by the end of the week, we'll have maybe a date, the week of the 22nd or the week of the 29th, for that type of workshop. I think our board meeting's not till the 7th, so we'd still have a week between a meeting like that and our meeting.
Bristol's doing all their meetings.
So will they be on the 9th?
They're gonna be the first Thursday.
First Thursday, okay.
Now, it doesn't happen this month because Jefferson has a budget meeting scheduled for this Thursday, so.
So when do you get that?
It's a week.
Okay, I didn't realize that.
That's only this month, though.
Okay,
because
so
of the downturn.
probably even then, before your meeting, we're gonna have to decide on a date if you're not meeting. Yeah, okay. So then, yeah, because we want to get that out and advertised. Okay, so stay tuned. Maybe after we can figure out dates a little bit between the three of us afterwards. I have Javier's dates, and we'll get Christian's when he gets back. The other thing that we're trying to figure out with legal counsel is exactly the way if we need to hold a town meeting, what that would entail. So that will be announced soon as well. John, do you have anything?
Yes. The last meeting, we did discuss, some staffing options for the ESC, which is obviously helpful for the financials. Did move the meeting. I did write that down, so that's good. It's the first I've heard of it. We do have, it was a request for more information, obviously, so we have a webpage on South Bristol website dedicated to the restructuring process, and all the documents that we have publicly available are up there at this point, and that will just be an ongoing place to post information that we have as we have it. So I'll make a note of that, and we can put it in the newsletters as well. You mentioned ILA draft. I'm getting a quote for financial system and data migration. They don't have that yet, but we might have that by the end of this week. And I hopefully that will be an easy transition if things go forward. Financial budget drafts, you mentioned that, and I guess that's all with org chart, governance. We talked briefly about governance. I know they're working on that in the ILA subcommittee.
And ILA is the local agreement for, just a reminder, some of these terms are new, we've heard them a
Yep.
little bit, but like, yeah.
Right.
Acronyms.
I know, that's, yeah.
I'm lost.
It's the,
Yeah.
it's the DOE.
Me too, we're just for the first year.
It's like you're in the army.
Thank you.
Anything else, Lori?
No, I think I captured that in the notes and hope I should look at it.
You good, Jen? Okay. So this is, I would like to make a motion for the South Bristol School Board to support the restructuring committee to continue its work to draft the necessary documents prior to the Part 2 application process. So we haven't voted to submit Part 2 yet, but what would be, is there a second?
Yeah.
I'll second, but I have questions.
So we haven't voted to submit Part 2 yet,
Okay.
but in order to do that, which would likely happen in October, we can't wait to do that. We have to do the work, and we have to also be able to communicate it to the community and the townspeople. So this is just kind of a little bit of a soft motion to just say, we support the restructuring committee to continue to do the work that John talked about, the financials, interlocal agreement, figuring out the legal stuff, and all the things that will go into Part 2 that's due at the end of October. Yeah, so that's the idea behind that motion.
Definitely support. Yeah.
What specifically is encompassed in Part 2, and will we have an opportunity to see it again as a board before it goes?
Yeah, you want to talk to?
Sure. So Part 1 was very rudimentary. It's basically waking up the DOE to say, hey, we're thinking about this. Part 2, although they came back to me with via email with all sorts of requests for additional information,
Oh, no.
which is actually on Part 2. Well, why are you asking me for that now if you really wanted it Part 2? Whatever. So Part 2, though, includes interlocal agreement, governance structure, and lots of details about withdrawal and transition, and basically setup of the ESC. So withdrawal process and all that stuff. So they asked me about withdrawal. They asked me about governance. They asked me about a bunch of other things, financials as well. And I'm like, well, we're working on those.
We're
Part
working
2.
on it.
Part 2.
But anyways, they always surprise me there. So that's basically what that entails. And then, just lots of details about, the formation of the ESC, including the full ILA, governance structure, withdrawal plans. That kind of thing.
So I guess my question is more, who approves Part 2? Is it the restructuring committee? Is it the individual boards? I don't know if it's even important, but I was just curious.
I think as a restructuring committee, we would gather the information and present it to the board, so you would have a chance to look over it, come up with questions, and then vote on it. And we may have to have some different meeting dates to get all this accomplished, because
Because October 7th is too early.
October is too early, but we will have, hopefully, a lot of that
Yes.
information for you, but then you'll be able to digest it along with the townspeople. But it's gonna be, there's gonna be probably a lot of unscheduled meetings.
But Part
and
2 is
workshops.
end of October.
End of
Yep.
October.
Yeah.
Some as late as it can get.
Yeah, which is good. Anything else?
All approved.
Okay. All those in favor?
Oh, absolutely.
All right. Future board topics, I think we have plenty of on our plate right now, but it was really helpful because one of the things we've had under this is Lincoln Academy Communications, and so that's gonna be taken off after a couple of years, so I'm really excited about that. Is there any public comment at the end? No? Okay. Without objection, board chair, is there anything else? I feel like I'm missing something, but it's only
6:38.
6:38. All right, without objection, the board chair declares the meeting adjourned at 6:38.
Fantastic.
All right.
No, she was just, she was gonna be, no, she's on top of it. She was gonna call one of chatted about this because something.
So, not that I remember what Peter said last year, but he did go into a detailed explanation of what the ESC would be compared to, yeah. And I remember it as being a very straightforward, common sense organization that supported the school, the functioning of the school. Can we access the meetings of that? Because everything is recorded and, let's say, printed out for a guy like me. Because I don't have